So as I discussed in a previous video, a leaked draft of a Supreme Court decision written by Justice Alito has shown that the Supreme Court appears in June to be striking down the precedent that is Roe v. Wade. And in that video, I discussed many things: the leaker, the consequences of this action, what it means, what it doesn't mean, how it reverts back to the states, it doesn't become a national ban on abortion. But I also comedically and hilariously cut in clips of the screaming lady at the Trump inauguration into all the protests because I thought it was amusing. However, the left is beyond parody, the left is beyond jokes. So in a protest in New York City, after I recorded my video, after I uploaded it, but before I published it, we actually saw protesters screaming just like in the video, because for some reason the left wing thinks screaming incoherently like psychopaths is something that makes you seem like you're holding a reasonable position. Now, other than my unparalleled ability to predict the future, which is now proven out by the facts to you guys out there on the internet.com, the other thing that I'm good at is talking about the Young Turks and going over crazy takes by TYT. And I have to say, Anna Kasparian of the Young Turks has been absolutely insane in every single video about this. Therefore, I'm going to have to go over these clips, but this won't be constructed like a regular video where I go after them and I debunk their talking points very much, because again, it's just Anna Kasparian going nuclear. But before we talk about all this, before we get into this healthy dose of cringe from TYT, we gotta talk about your health. Health with Justice Transition, sponsor transition, Health with Justice Transition. Studies have shown that our appearance has a huge impact on our mental health. This is one of the reasons why there are so many different anti-aging products out there on the market. But the thing is, those anti-aging projects, they're garbage. They're trash. You don't want them. Stop buying them. Instead, go over to Health with Justice and get yourself this multi-collagen powder. This is absolutely the best powder out there on the market. You put one scoop in your morning beverage every single day, and it adds the collagen that your body's losing production in, thus causing the aging problems, thus solving that problem. Look at my baby skin. Look at the glow. Oh my god, healthwithjustice.com. Get yourself 51% off, healthwithjustice.com. Again, supporting the sponsors actually really does help support the channel, especially the ride or dies like Health with Justice, who have been with this channel for almost a year now. But let's move on into the clip. Anna Kasparian, this one was going viral. It was actually tweeted out by a lefty to show how good Anna Kasparian is, and we have to go over that.
We don't even have paid family leave. We don't even have affordable childcare in this freaking country. Okay, and the people who fight against those kinds of laws are Republicans.
So one of the things I love about this clip, other than the fact that it was uploaded by a lefty as a means to praise Anna Kasparian, despite the fact that she's totally unhinged in this clip, is the fact that the camera switch person didn't realize that Anna Kasparian was going to go into a rant for a little while. So you have to look at Cenk's awkward face in the beginning of this, where he's like, oh, here comes Anna again. And believe me, that is the expression on his face, because Anna Kasparian has been taking over and ranting incoherently, babbling in an uncontrolled manner throughout the course of this entire show. Let's run in more into the clip.
Okay, and the people who fight against those kinds of laws are Republicans.
And yet,
what do you want them to do with their kids when they have to go to work?
So like I said, abortion's never been something that I've been particularly interested in as a topic right here on the internet.com. If you had to pin me down on the issue, I would probably go in the pro-choice camp. That being said, me making that statement out there in the public and clear on where I stand on an issue that I'm not particularly concerned about, I will say the pro-choice argumentation is absolutely horrific and embarrassing in every possible way.
We don't even have paid family leave. We don't even have affordable childcare in this freaking country. Okay, and the people who fight against those kinds of laws are Republicans.
And yet,
what do you want them to do with their kids when they have to go to work? What do you want them to do? What do you want them to do? I want them to answer that freaking question. Answer the question. Journalists, ask them the question. Ask them. Ask them.
So she talked about paid family leave earlier on in that clip. Then she starts saying, what do you want them to do when they have to go to work? Where do you want them to put their kids? Which is supposedly her argument in favor of abortion. But let's analyze this as if it wasn't the incoherent ramblings of a crazy person and if it was an actual counterpoint to the pro-life argument. So the pro-life argument, pretty straightforward. Life begins at conception, and it is murder to kill off people in the womb. That's their argument. We all understand it. It's pretty straightforward. You got the scientific basis that when two things merge in the womb, a new life is created. We all understand that. The intelligent pro-choice argument is the issue of dependent life versus independent life. But again, we're not getting into that. We're getting into Anna Kasparian's argument. Anna Kasparian's argument is we don't have paid family leave. The government isn't forcing your employer to pay you to stay home with your kid. Therefore, you can kill the kid. And also, childcare is unaffordable. What do you expect them to do when they have to go to work? Where do you want them to leave their kid? Obviously, you should kill the kid in response to that. That makes no sense at all. That argument is applicable to infanticide. It makes no sense on another level, that being if we had paid family leave, if we had government subsidized daycare, Anna Kasparian wouldn't change her position on pro-life, pro-choice. So nothing about Anna's incoherent rant makes any sense at all. And a perfect example of this, something to really draw the threads for you, to put all the pieces together, is if I said, hey, don't kill a homeless person. Don't do it. It's bad. Don't kill a homeless person. And then you said in response to that, well, if you don't want me to kill this homeless person, then why don't you let them live in your house? If you're not going to let this homeless person live in your house, then basically you can't say anything about the murder. Why do we even care about criminalizing murder? Because, oh my God, you won't let the homeless person live in your house. Obviously, this argument would not fly on any side of the political spectrum, but for some reason, Anna, in her incoherent, ridiculous, and absurd in every possible way rantings, thinks that this is a good argument. We don't have paid family leave. The Republicans fight against it. Therefore, something pro-life, not good position, something. Again, incoherent argumentation, something that might sound good on a superficial level if it's not coming from a screaming harpy. But again, when you break it down, nothing to it at all whatsoever.
Isn't it amazing?
Ask them the goddamn question.
Isn't it amazing?
Ask them the goddamn question.
I like how Cenk's like, isn't it amazing? And then Anna just cuts in, ask them the goddamn question. Where do you want the kids to go when the parents go to work? Ask the pro-life people that. Ask Justice Alito that. Say, hey, Justice Alito, I know you wrote this rebuke of Roe versus Wade. You use a lot of good constitutional basis to talk about why this decision was decided improperly. You talked about the proper role of the states. You talked about the history of abortion criminalization pre-Roe versus Wade. But we need to ask you whether or not what parents are supposed to do in daycare, blah, 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 they can't afford daycare, Justice Alito.
Isn't it amazing that not one Democrat has shown 1% of the passion that Anna has today?
They don't care.
They don't care.
They don't care. They're all so old, they don't even have to worry about it affecting them. And if they're young enough where it would affect them, they'll get their abortion.
They don't care. They're fine. They're so old, they don't even have to worry about it affecting them. If they were young enough, they would get their schmorshins.
They're going to fly to Paris.
They're trading individual stocks, enriching themselves. They're good. They don't care about you. Make sure you understand that and you feel it in your bones. They don't care about you at all.
If you had any concerns that Anna Kasparian was this intellectual on the left, somebody you could have debates or discussions with, look at her flaming out right now. Look at her reaching for all these different things, talking all this nonsense, saying, oh, they're trading individual stocks. They're fine. They're trading. What does this have to do with anything, Anna? Where are the corporations on this issue, since you're talking about them trading individual stocks? They're on the pro-choice side. The majority of the mainstream press is on the pro-choice side. Everything that gets a good view in terms of the public consciousness is the pro-choice side. The pro-life side gets painted as evil religious zealots, Nazis. Cenk called them the people that wanted to keep slavery in the later video that we're going to talk about a little bit later in this video.
There are 5 religious zealots on the Supreme Court at a minimum. And They don't care about logic or principles or ideology. They don't care. They're just religious fundamentalists. And so they think this is a perfect opportunity to take my religious views and establish a state religion through the Supreme Court and enforce it on you. And I don't care, and they don't care how hypocritical they are. If you said to Sam Alito, okay, then give me your kidney. I can save a life with it. Give me your kidney. They'll say, no, that's me. I care about me. But women, I don't care about women at all. We could just use them as chattel. They'll just be incubators for us. And that's what they believe. There's a 0% chance of that. Zero, okay? They're not getting it. Democrats are not getting it. And they're never gonna get it. Their job is to get their asses handed to them by Republicans. So did they counter? No, I'll counter. The Republicans are evil. They want to use women for their bodies. They don't care about women. If you're a woman and you're voting for Republicans, you should have your head examined. You're a lunatic. You're purposely giving away your rights, and you'll lose them all. And then afterwards you'll say, oh, where did my rights go? Well, we warned you, and we warned you, and we warned you. But no, you're gonna give them away because the Republicans are evil. They hate our democracy, they hate our rights. And the number one thing that right-wingers want to do is lord power over us. And then they do that BS projection where they say, oh, the liberals just want to control your lives. We want you to get the hell out of our lives. We want you to get the hell out of our lives. We don't want you. We don't like you. We don't want your jackbooted thugs in the goddamn government controlling our bodies.
It's all crazy attacks on them for being terrible people when pro-choice stuff is out there in the media. There's a reason why most people believe that Roe v. Wade being overturned criminalizes abortion across the country blanketly, even though that is clearly not the case.
All of that fundraising, all of that canvassing, all of that hard work on the ground, they can't even get a voting rights bill passed. They're losers.
They can't even get a voting rights bill passed. They're losers. Yeah, because the federal government does not get the power to regulate all the elections nationwide. That's why they can't get that law passed, because the law is incoherent, it's stupid, and it's totally unconstitutional. The idea that the Democrats, with a very slim majority, were going to run roughshod over all the states in this union is absurd in every possible way. But sure, that's why they're losers. Anna, calm down, relax, chillax, take a chill pill. Everybody, stop. Now, the next video, which we're not going to get into too much because, again, this is about Anna Kasparian ranting across the entire day because she's lost her freaking mind, is a video that's based on somebody who's the head of some Trump campaign talking about how the Democrats writ large are in favor of abortion after the child is born. I've seen some academic arguments for up to 2, you being able to commit infanticide against the child, but overall, I think it is fair to say that most people in the Democratic Party are not in favor of this. The Democratic voting base is not in favor of this. They just want abortion up to the point of birth or up to the 3rd trimester or whatever, so this is definitely an overreach. That being said, Anna Kasparian is in an unhinged mood, and that's what we're here to talk about, so let's listen to her go crazy on this lady that she says is so irrelevant because she's the head of some Trump organization or whatever.
But the idea that the left wing in this country advocates for or supports abortions past the birth of the child is the most egregious, insane lie. In fact, if we actually want to be accurate, why don't we talk about all the children who die as a result of hunger, poverty, that results from austerity measures that Republicans have fought for tooth and nail to pleasure their corporate donors just so they can save $1 or $2 in taxes. Let's talk about that bitch. Let's talk about that bitch.
Let's talk about that bitch.
Let's talk about that bitch.
That's Anna Kasparian losing her freaking mind. First and foremost, the idea that people in the United States of America are dying of hunger is a little bit absurd. What we have in terms of the poors in the United States is an obesity problem. The idea that Republican austerity measures are killing all these poor, homeless, transes kids. I just threw the transes in there because why not? We're just making stuff up. is just ridiculous in every possible way. We are a first world country. The idea that somebody having bad nutrition is the same as somebody not having any food is absurd. In terms of poverty, again, the government is not responsible for poverty. The government's not good at lifting people up out of poverty. And one of the reasons why the Republicans are against these so-called anti-poverty programs is that in reality, they trap people in a state of perpetual dependence where they can never advance, thus prolonging their poverty. But Anna Kasparian don't care about any of that. Anna Kasparian is just going to get angry and call this lady the B word, which we're not going to say because this is a very, very family-oriented show.
Let's talk about that bitch. You want to talk about that? You want to talk about how many homeless kids die on the streets in red states in this country? You want to talk about how many right-wingers made wearing a mask during a contagious pandemic a culture war issue? Knowing full well that it put people's lives in danger and very likely spread the virus and killed people? You want to talk about that bitch?
You want to talk about that bitch?
You want to talk about that bitch?
So this is Anna coming out full as the trash that she actually is. She tries to put up the veneer that she's some sophisticated person analyzing policy, but in reality, that's just not the case. In terms of the masks, we had mask mandates, we had masks that correlated with the increase in the virus. It didn't appear to significantly reduce the transmission of the virus, which makes a lot of sense because the thing that I carried around in my back pocket all day and put over my face right before I went into a store, probably not the most medically valuable thing humanly possible. On top of that, the left wing made masking a cultural issue. They had all these actors and all these people virtue signaling with it, where they would put on the mask for the photo op, and then we would see through the video that they would take it off immediately right thereafter. They also condemn people who were selling PPE during the beginning of the pandemic because Dr. Anthony Fauci came out with this thing that people don't need to wear masks, but the masks are needed for the medical professionals, which just goes to show you how incoherent the policy was. Also, the idea that masks were super effective, this was something ignored by the left wing for political purposes, because obviously the thing that I carried around in my back pocket all day only to throw up on my face when I entered a store was not the most sophisticated way to protect us from any medical issues. On top of that, Anna Kasparian is in studio with Cenk Uygur right now. She should know that the vaccine doesn't 100% prevent the transmission of COVID, so why isn't she wearing a mask right now?
We can't allow short memory spans to put us in a disadvantage right now. We're dealing with a pandemic that has subsided a little bit. Hundreds of thousands of Americans who didn't need to die died.
I guess it's more important for us to see Anna Kasparian's raging out face during the course of this segment than it is to protect Cenk Uygur, who's morbidly obese, from coronavirus, right, Anna?
Thousands of Americans who didn't need to die died because her party, people like Donald Trump, decided to make masks a culture war issue.
They died. Again, Anna, put on your mask. If the pandemic has subsided a little bit, then put on your mask. Cover your face. I don't need to see it. If it isn't about political virtue signaling, cover your face. Cenk is in danger. He's in a high-risk group. He's over 50 and he's significantly overweight. Anna Kasparian, cover your face.
The same people who want to be all up in your uterus and decide what you can and can't do with it are the same ones who were losing their minds over having to put a piece of cloth over their freaking ugly faces. Oh, I can't breathe. How many videos did we see of Trump supporters at grocery stores or retail stores or just out in public hyperventilating over having to briefly and temporarily put a goddamn mask on? But they think that a woman shouldn't have agency over her own body because they allegedly want to protect zygotes and fetuses.
So right now, Anna Kasparian is trying to make a hypocrisy claim, which is hilarious because if you listen to her argumentation, what you realize is that she's revealing her own hypocrisy. Anna only cares about bodily autonomy in the case of abortion. She only cares about choice in the case of abortion. But right now, she's talking about how she's in favor of mask mandates, and Anna Kasparian was in favor of vaccine mandates. So she's in favor of all these restrictions on actual bodily autonomy when it's only affecting you. And what conservatives argue is that the reason abortion is not a bodily autonomy issue is because it affects a third party. That would be the fetus in the womb. They consider that an independent person. Anna Kasparian is not arguing against that issue, which again just goes to show you how terrible these people are on actually arguing the issue of pro-life, pro-choice.
But the second that baby baby's born. No mandatory family leave, no child care, nothing, no support. Oh, are you poor because your wages have been stagnant since the 1970s? Too bad. Too bad. We want to cut funding for food stamps. We want to cut the social safety net. We want to make sure that our rich buddies save $1 or $2 in taxes. That's how pro-life they are.
So again, we have the same retreads of the same stupid points from Anna Kasparian about, oh, there's no paid family leave, as if she would support abortion restrictions if there were paid family leave. And then she talks about food stamps and how Republicans are so anti-you once you're out of the womb. They're such bad people because they don't believe in government programs that trap you in poverty and don't actually elevate you out of poverty. Oh my God, aren't Republicans terrible people?
There are kids living on the streets right now as we speak. In Texas, they have an issue with an underfunded foster care system.
So Anna, of course, is targeting Texas, saying underfunded foster care system, whatever. Honestly, Anna doesn't care about the funding levels of the foster care system. She doesn't care about homeless people. Again, California is loaded up with homeless people. But it is interesting how Anna was going to bail out of saying the word baby right here and there for fetus. And I just want to play that for you so you can capitalize on that.
So they say, oh, well, if you can't afford the kid, I mean, you just give it up for adoption, as if that's not a traumatic thing to do after carrying that fetus to term for 9 months. That fetus.
So if you're carrying it to term, it would be a baby. Even if you're the most pro-choice person, you should believe that. But Anna doesn't want to lose on the language battle. So even though she's ranting emotionally, her brain can't process what she's actually saying. So she had to pause, back out of that sentence, and rephrase it on the fly. And we all just saw it right there on video.
Supreme Court confirms leak, says Roe draft is not final. It's all about the leak. It's all about the leak. It's like, hey, how many women are gonna die as a result of this? How many Republicans are pretending to care about the life of a zygote when you have children literally dying on our streets in America today because of their austerity measures? How about that, New York Times? Maybe focus on not following whatever framing the right wing wants to spout, but they can't help themselves. The right wing rules this country.
Now look, I'm trying my best to make counter arguments against the non-arguments being put forward by Anna Kasparian, but in reality, these aren't arguments, and what you guys are really here for are the clips of her flipping out, so I will not deny them to you any further. Let's roll into some of the most crazy ones.
So not concerned at all about the women who are likely gonna die because they're so desperate that they'll take a wire coat hanger and jam it up their uterus to give themselves an abortion. No concern about that. Megyn Kelly's worried about the leaker, who, by the way, might also be a conservative, which we'll get to in just a second. Ben Shapiro as well, Ben Shapiro. Who would Ben Shapiro be if it weren't for the culture wars? Who would Ben Shapiro? Would Ben Shapiro talk about how much he hates unions? So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We don't even need to pontificate about this. We don't need to speculate about this. They were gonna do it no matter what. That's it. And we're done talking about the leak because the leak is irrelevant at this point. What's relevant is what we're gonna do to counteract the damage. It's something you should keep in mind as people are now funneling millions and millions of dollars into the campaign coffers of ineffective, weak, pathetic Democratic lawmakers who are in charge right now, they're in charge right now, and this happened under their watch, okay? Obama had a super majority in the beginning of his first term, didn't want to codify abortion. In fact, he was on the record saying that's not a priority right now. Not a priority right now. He was too busy cowering to Republicans to pass a Republican healthcare plan that Mitt Romney had passed in his state. So look, Cenk, take over because I'm having a hard time even communicating today. You know, maybe if the woman's life is in danger, maybe they'll consider it. Maybe the pro-life people who couldn't be bothered to wear a freaking mask during the pandemic might make an exception for a woman if her life is in danger as a result of that pregnancy. Might. They're pro-life, by the way. Hundreds of thousands of Americans dead during the pandemic because of the intentional disinformation by the same right-wingers who are pretending to care about zygotes and fetuses today. Continue.
So I'm actually going to read a super chat here because it's actually really powerful and directly is in line with what we were
Feckless
saying.
Democrats, losers, weak. That's who they are. What happened to those runoff Senate elections in Georgia where everyone turned out because those were the consequential races? We need to ensure that Democrats have a majority in the Senate. What happened? What happened? How are you going to convince people to come out and vote for you feckless losers? How?
Okay.
People are donating millions of dollars to Democrats right now. Don't waste your money.
Oh, you're wasting your
Don't
money
waste your
so
money.
badly.
All of the bootlickers for the Democratic Party get so upset at me for telling the truth about how ineffective and pathetic Democratic lawmakers are. Go ahead and cry about it. Oh, but the real enemies are the Republicans. At least Republicans tell us exactly who they are.
Yeah.
They don't even hide their cards. They tell us exactly who they are and what they're planning on doing. They scream it from the mountaintops.
Yeah.
And what do Democrats do? Do they do anything to prepare for it, to strategize, to ensure that they mitigate the damage that's done by right-wingers in this country? No, they're too busy fundraising. Nancy Pelosi's got to fundraise. Chuck Schumer, he can't do away with the filibuster because that would mean that he'd have to apply a little bit of pressure on goons like Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin. Ooh, can't do that, can't do that. No, the reason why I go after Democrats is because A, they deserve it, and B, they deceive us. They lie to us, and they tell us that they're gonna fight for us, and they do the exact opposite. They fold immediately. Nancy Pelosi, on the record, said, we need strong Republicans. Oh, I bet you do, Nancy. I bet you do.
Yeah.
Without the strong Republicans, how would you fundraise? You pathetic, pathetic corporate goon.
Now, I do want to throw some shade at Cenk Uyghur's direction because he definitely deserves it. But Anna is just losing her mind, talking about how Republicans killed 100,000 people or hundreds of thousands of people during the coronavirus pandemic and all this nonsense, just ranting and raving, just saying dead people will die, 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 die. Again, the absence of argument. If you don't agree with me, then people will die. If you don't agree with me, then people will die. Even though, again, Republicans are making the point that abortion is murder, aka the same exact argument, but with some actual statistical basis to it. It seems like the coronavirus was a virus that was highly transmissible. It was going to kill a certain amount of people if you look at the estimates. And I've talked about this before. We're right in the normal range of the estimates, and we took different measures. It didn't seem to work. What does Anna Kasparian want us to do? Be like communist China? Probably, because they have forced abortion. She's in the extreme camp in this argument. And force people into lockdowns in order to prevent one person from getting the virus? That's absurd in every possible way. Anna Kasparian was in favor of it before, but now the left has backed off of it because you can't really contrast that to President Trump because President Trump isn't in office. So again, Anna, calm down, stop raging out. You're not making any sense. In fact, never mind, scratch everything I just said. Keep raging out. It's entertaining for me. I could do supercuts from now on, and then I don't even have to talk in my videos going forward. It's amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much, Anna.
Saying that Roe v. Wade is wrongly decided is not an extreme position. It is a fairly normal judicial and legal debate as to whether Roe was decided correctly. That is not about the issue of abortion. That's about how do you interpret the Constitution. And so Roe was very expansive in how they interpreted the Constitution, and a lot of legal scholars have had some concerns about how broad it was, okay?
Now, what I found funny about this video is that Cenk actually pointed out something that I pointed out before, that you can make solid, sound arguments against the Roe versus Wade decision, and legal scholars, a lot of them across the spectrum, agree that this is a decision that's not really based in fact. This is a rational position, and I commend Cenk for doing this, or at least I would commend Cenk for doing this, if not for Cenk's immediate reaction where he was on the verge of tears, talking about how Republicans, this is like them doing slavery, Republicans, racist, slavery. Somehow this is a racist issue because Cenk's brain is totally broken.
The mainstream media has been nervous about offending Republicans ever since Republicans said black people are inferior to us.
Yeah, mainstream media is full of little bitches.
Yeah.
Terrified of the right wing, terrified. Keep cowering.
Yeah.
Great, hard-hitting journalism you got there.
And I'm referring to the civil rights era, and it is literal. Back then, the right wing was very frank and honest, and now they're almost back to that era where they said, yeah, black people are not as good as white people, they're inferior. And if you report in the New York Times that they're equal to us, well, then you're being biased against the right wing.
And they would never, ever do anything to right-wing voters. They'll only take, from minorities, women, etc. That's what the right wing in this country have always done. It's deeply uncomfortable. That's why people don't like to talk about it. That's why right wingers catch feelings over it, and then they never lose those feelings, and they vote against us for the rest of the time. But who did slavery? The right wing did slavery. They took possession of people's body, and they used the government to take away liberty. The definition of slavery is taking away your liberty. And the right wing did that with zeal for hundreds of years in this country. The left wing fought against it. And they'll say, no, the feelings of the powerful have been hurt. We don't care about the powerless. We don't care about black people. We don't care about women. We don't care about gay people. But white Christian males, they must rule. And you must all listen to their religion. And if you don't, you're a barbarian and you'll be eliminated. You'll be eliminated from the national conversation. We'll do cancel culture. Guaranteed. That's why you turn on TV. You won't hear anyone say 10% of what I just said. You won't hear a single person call the Republicans evil. It's not allowed. You're not allowed to hurt their feelings because they're supposed to have power over us. Look, I don't agree. I don't consent. I do not consent the right-wing Christian men having power over me. So they're going to have to fight me for it. And so I will never, ever, ever consent to that. They are not better than me. They're not even goddamn equal to me. They're not even goddamn equal to me. They're not even goddamn equal to me.
Now look, I could keep going, I could keep playing clips for you, I could mash this up, I could churn it down, I could spin it around, serve it to you with the side of fries, but in reality, just go watch the clips for yourself. Every single video of Anna Kasparian from this day features her just flipping out, losing her mind, and I'm here for it. It's hilarious in every possible way, and we should all enjoy the meltdown that is Anna Kasparian. She tried to hide it, the Katzenberg money, tried to straighten out the Young Turks, stop them from swearing, but Anna can't handle it. She can't handle acting normal in civilized society, so this is what Anna Kasparian is up to. I do love the fact that she keeps saying, organize, because that's like a communist buzzword that she's hyped about, even though it doesn't mean anything, and it's just a word, and you're not going to do anything because you're Anna Kasparian, and you never do anything. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like the video, you can show them by leaving a like, you can subscribe for more content, you can follow me on all my social medias, you can support me via the support links in the description box. This has been me talking about Anna Kasparian going full meltdown. Till next time.